Joining me now to discuss today's developments on Iraq is Kyle Olson. He's president of a Homeland Security Consulting Group and a leading authority on terrorism. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So, Kyle, al-Maliki has fought long and hard. Is there any way that he can still hold on to power?
Prime Minister al-Maliki is still the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Iraq. And as we saw today and last night, the movement of special forces who are directly reporting to him, as well as other elements of the military, into Baghdad, at the very least, it's part of a hard push to influence the outcome. At the very least, it's potential, or at the very worst, rather, I should say, it's potentially setting the stage for essentially a coup against his own government.
Do you think that's one of the reasons we saw Iraqi troops in the streets of Baghdad this week?
Well, I think that's exactly what that was. He was sending a very clear message that he's not going to go quietly, and that it's going to take a great deal of persuasion before he's going to give up the handle of power. He's been holding on so fiercely for so long.
So is persuasion really what is needed here? I mean, he hasn't been persuaded all this time. What's different now?
I think the White House, I think other elements of the Iraqi government, certainly a lot of people around the world, are hoping that there's a deal that can be struck that's going to give him the exit that he wants. But he's painting himself into a corner here. And at a certain point, something's going to give.
Do you think, Kyle, that this latest business with the new Prime Minister al-Abadi, could this lead to more political infighting and instability in Iraq?
The interesting thing is that from a political point of view, if it's going to be resolved politically, the interesting thing here is you've got the Kurdish president has identified and named someone who he's putting forward under the Constitution of Iraq. The new Prime Minister al-Abadi has 30 days to name his cabinet and get it approved. The interesting thing that happened in the last 24 hours is that the Dawa party, which is al-Maliki's party, actually threw their support behind Abadi. And that's politically significant. Now, whether or not, again, that's going to carry the day, that's going to depend on the Iraqi army.
So you're saying this is not just a symbolic blow, it's actually a political blow to al-Maliki.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about U.S. reaction. President Obama came out, made a statement today that they support al-Abadi. Do you think at some point the Obama administration has to change strategy? Because up until this point, it has not managed to succeed in getting al-Maliki to step down.
Well, they were very reluctant to give him that final push. I think they'd been looking for some sort of a political or diplomatic fig leaf, and they got it with the nomination of Abadi. Now, Maliki's actions right now are simply reinforcing what a lot of people had been saying for so long, was that he was not going to give up power. He was not going to release that. The White House had been, I think, hoping for the best. I don't know that they'd been preparing for the worst, but I think they've finally reached the point now where they can have no confidence in the status quo. They have to go with a different direction.
So how much support, realistically, does al-Maliki still have in Iraq?
He has the support of a military, which is very, very heavily stocked with people that he chose from his close personal circles. And in fact, that's been characterized as one of the deficiencies in the Iraqi military, is that if you were not part of the Maliki circle, you were not going to get promoted into leadership positions. That is considered to be one of the reasons that the Iraqi our military, I should say, has performed so poorly in the field against ISIS.
So let's talk about ISIS and what's happening in northern Iraq. Do you think the political situation and this power struggle in Baghdad, will it have any kind of impact on the U.S. airstrikes in northern Iraq, on ISIS's strategy perhaps in the region?
The U.S. is certainly seems to be prepared now to at least provide some support to the Kurdistani government. They, I think, are looking for an opportunity. I believe there's a desire to be able to put air power to work for the broader Iraqi aims. Right now, they're keeping it very constrained, very limited in scope. The White House is very mindful that they made a commitment to get out of Iraq, and now they seem to be on the verge of getting pulled back into it. They're not going to do it until the Baghdad government has changed, until they've got what they think is a truly inclusive government in Baghdad. And that won't happen with Maliki.
So tell us what you know about this man, al-Abadi. Is he a unifying force for Iraq?
He says he is. At this point in the game, I think the belief is that the Kurds will get behind Abadi. The hope is that there are Sunni elements that will get behind him, the Shiites. That is really the key here. Maliki has done such a complete and really unrelenting job of marginalizing and even driving the other factions out of the government that at this point he's almost the last best hope.
Are you surprised that he's managed to hold on to power as long as he has?
He's played the game very well. He waited a long time for the fall of Saddam Hussein. In his first period, in his first taste of power under the provisional government, he led essentially the eviction of all of the established government personnel out of the government. He threw all the people who'd aligned themselves with the Hussein regime. And he was really setting the stage for a long time here. I think once he got in, he found that the levers of power were very attractive. They were right there, and he was more adept at operating them than most people wanted to believe.
And how big of a role do you think Iran, also a Shiite majority country, is playing? What kind of role is Iran playing in all this?
Iran has probably, I think that's one of the great side stories here, is that the Iranian government has been a force for stability here, or at least a force for promoting effective change. I think Maliki had felt that he had Iran's backing. That has sort of gone away. I think they are looking now to a situation in which the collapse of Iraq puts the ISIS movement right at their doorstep. And so I think one of the great little hidden stories here is the back-channel diplomacy between the White House and
very
Tehran.
quickly, do you think that would happen? Do you think Iran and U.S. can work together in Iraq?
They're going to have to.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll leave it at that. Kyle Olson.